So, of all your creature features, Larry, this is the most full-bore horror, you know? It's the most, you hit us in the guts with this one. What made you decide to go all in with the horror elements this time?
Well, I always say that the nature of the creature is what indicates what you have to do, and you really can't do a werewolf without these visceral kills. I made a Frankenstein movie. The gore there is more about the operation and the pain, but that's a sad story about being an outsider. This is a little bit more. You have to have the struggle between the daytime guy and the nighttime guy. So, I needed to thank you to all my victims who are here, Motell and Jeremy. So that was the reason. It's always the monster or the theme of the movie that leads the creative work.
Your lead character seems to have been inspired by the character you played in Habit, in the sense that he has both daddy issues and drinking issues. What made you want to revisit that?
I'm obsessed with the patriarch because I think it really speaks to the society we've built, very male-oriented, and the problems with that. So all my stories sort of talk about fathers. My own dad was a very lovely man, but I think we have to talk about the patriarch. And then alcoholism is something I feel like even if it's not specifically alcoholism, that this society is hooked on something. Now it's social media, it makes alcohol seem almost quaint. But, so I think, it's a damaged species, and I want to talk about that, and it's funner to talk about it with monster stories than to really get into the thick of it with who wants to think about all that? So that's what goes on.
Well, speaking of social issues, this film is timelier than ever in the sense that you make the immigration storyline is a scapegoat in your movie as it's in society as a whole today. Was that something you started out initially to approach, or was just
yeah?
Happy
Well, I did
coincidence?
write it during. I suppose I truly wrote it during the Trump period, as far as fleshing out the story. Ironically, in the radio play, John was up on stage at Lincoln Center. It was just a half-hour piece, but it was the centerpiece with Earl. So that was fun. John played Earl, and then I needed John to be the preacher, so we switched it out. So I always wanted the car accident. I love the idea of a werewolf. That would be a very inconvenient time to turn it.
That has to be the most unique transformation scene ever in a werewolf movie.
Well, you can put that on the poster. But anyway, you get the idea. You think about a werewolf story, that's a character that it has a divided personality. He's a monster at night and perhaps remorseful in the day, so I thought that lent itself to a conversation about a divided society and so on. So I always want to bring in the issues of the day when contemplating these old myths. But enough for me. These guys should.
Yeah, let's. Well, Alex, I have a question for you. I thought it was a beautiful touch having your own dad play your dad in the movie, and he had his own transformative horror science fiction film, Altered States, many years ago, in which he played a kind of a similar character. Did you look at that movie as any kind of inspiration for this one?
I mean, we shot this over a year ago. My memory is not as. I have 2 children, so I don't see I just sort of drag the trash at the end of each week. I definitely did, and I mean, I've loved that film since I was, I think, in high school. I remember the first time I watched it, and actually, like, weirdly, I don't know if this is interesting at all, but I was like doing a Sundance theater lab one summer and like reading this play, and all of a sudden looked over at this woman. I was like, who the heck are you? Like, I know you. And then I realized it was Blair Brown, and we ended up becoming friends. I definitely checked out that film, and also, I watched the Lon Chaney's and every other werewolf movie I could get my hands on. I'm not one of those actors who's like, I just have to get into it. Like I wanted to see what everyone else had done so I could make decisions on what we were going to do differently. And I don't know. I think I can't be a judge of my own work, but I'm really happy with the
John, you've been with Larry from the beginning. Could you talk about how his work has changed over the decades in working with Larry?
Well, I mean, we go back to Wendigo was what, 2000, 2001, something like that? So, and the way he works hasn't changed in terms of the freedom that he gives to the actors and to the cast. And I mean, I just think these guys all just stepped it up so much. And that was because of the environment that Larry creates on the set, which he did back then and he does now. He casts the people he wants, and then he just kind of gives us some free rein to play with it. And it's always a very relaxed set, you know, with Larry. Of course, he wasn't in this, and that's a different burden, like when he was, you know, he had to carry, have it, and direct it as well. And so I think that was easier for him. But I think if anyone enjoyed this, you should try and check out the radio play, because Larry, of course, plays Charlie. So you'll hear Larry's sort of early take on it, and it's really not. I mean, plot-wise, it's very much the same. But we knew even when we did it then that it was such a visual piece, and so we knew immediately, just based on how it played back at Lincoln Center, that you had to expand this. You know, you had to, because we just wanted to see that visual. You know, but no, other than that, I mean, Larry just creates a very free environment, and that's always a joy to play in, which is why when the phone rings and he's on the other end, everybody says yes. You know, they all want to participate. So, you know, that's that.
Well, let's take that question a step further. With all of our actors, what were your impressions when you first got Larry's script over email or through the mail, and what you wanted to bring to the characters you played?
Who's this guy Larry everybody keeps talking about? No, you know, I had the good fortune of working with Larry a few times, and if Larry calls and asks you to, you know, take out his trash or whatever else it is, you'll do it. I was very nervous to be on Larry's set with him as a director. I'd done a movie with him, Brooklyn 45 and The Ranger, but I didn't know what it would be like with him as a director, and I had all this, like, you know, you don't want to let down the godfather of, you know, New York horror. Like, what's going to happen to you? People will hunt you down, they'll meet you, they'll find you in alleys, they'll come to your home, and they will dismember you. So it's true that when Larry asks any people in the business to help him out, we'll be there, and it was an honor to be in the film. And Alex, and you killed it, brother, and just all the performances. That's what it's all about. Love, the love of the art, and every performance in this film, you see that. You see each actor shining through in their own way. Enough from me.
You did so good. I'm like, I gotta follow that. No, I mean, I would just
Like he said.
Yeah, I mean, just like you said. Yeah, I mean, when Larry called, it was just, you know, you're excited to be a part of it because everyone adores Larry, and he's so passionate, and he's been doing this for so long that, you know, there's no small part things. It's actually, no, with him, it's just not true at all. I mean, you're just grateful to be there and grateful to participate, and I'm sure we all felt this way, but you just want to help him, you know what I mean? He's just like such a passionate guy, you know, it's like, that's, you know, I'm not talking too long here, but no, really, it's like, you just want to help him, and that's it, so.
All right.
Thanks, dude.
Let's talk about monsters. So let's hear from these guys down here. Cody.
I told Larry I wanted a bigger part.
That's true. And actually, Cody expanded his role, which was perfect, and he's obviously with Marc. So they really brought something to you can't tell, but their names are Bert and Ernie.
In real
I
life.
just thought their whole backstory was so sweet, and I think it's in the edit. I hope it is, because we had a whole idea about them. But anyway, Rigo, talk about, I don't know what.
The exact question again?
What was your thoughts when you
Something
first
about
read
acting.
Larry's script? What you wanted to bring to your character?
I don't know. I guess I just appreciated that Larry kind of just let me rock with this one. Like, when I saw the character, I didn't want to do like, you know, like an accent or anything like that, and you know, I'm a light-skinned dude. Like, I didn't want to present something that I'm not. But you know, I grew up with guys like Miguel. Like, I grew up in a blue-collar, you know, Latino community that blah blah blah. And so yeah, so I don't know. I just like that he just let me, you know, rock with this character and just do what I want to do. And I just thought that the story was kind of like endearing. You know what I'm saying? It's just like making the movie was just all these people coming together in this weird little Libby upstate like town, and it just took this, like, ironically, it was just like it took a community to come together to make this movie that, like, the story's about a community that fell apart. You know what I'm saying? So it's just kind of I don't know, kind of a cool thing.
I just want to say, so Rigo has worked for me for at least 10 years, right?
Almost.
Yeah, so he's the master of Glass Eye. He does all the socials and runs the errands and so on. And he slowly over time revealed he wanted to be an actor. And he's the star of Chris Scotchapol's movie upcoming called Catcher. So is Other Right Tech and this maniac, John Speredakos. So I cannibalized Chris's cast. I also cannibalized my son's cast. He cast this gentleman, and that's where we started talking about monsters and werewolves and how much he loved the old Universal movies. And of course, his dad was an actor, and we talked about fathers. So I just started feeling that Alex Hurt was my werewolf. And then Motell is also in my son Jack's movie. So, and Cody is a great actor, even when he plays small roles. So I stole all of Jack's cast as well. And then I had some old pals to draw from for the rest. But this is what directors do. They steal and then they take the credit. Let's hear from Motell, your experience.
Oh, hello. So I got a secret that might be quite embarrassing to release to the crowd. And to you, Larry. So I didn't read the script. But it was intentional. It's not because I'm a lazy actor. I'm quite the opposite. I try to be. Once I realized that Earl sort of was removed from everyone and sort of lived in the woods off, I was like, maybe it's best if I don't know the happenings in town. Maybe it's best if on the day, like, all the new information. I mean, I obviously read the scenes and worked on them, but it's as new as possible. And so this has been quite the delight. It's like, this is about werewolves? No, but when we worked on Foxo with Jack, I remember one of my early sort of points of just impression was you, Larry. It was like there's this sort of childlike curiosity that you managed to preserve. That I think it's quite difficult to protect that as you become more world wearied and just aware, and it comes to bear just so thoroughly when you're on set. And so when you sent the email with the script, I was like, yeah, let's do it. And then to get to have this scene with Alex, who's just fucking bonkers in this movie, so good. And I've always admired Alex. We went to the same school, and I've always admired like the intentionality and the just how driven he is and how thorough he is in his work. And so it was just a complete delight to do it. And Earl, I sort of came off of this period where I was living in the woods alone for a while, so I was like, oh, this is kind of fitting. This kind of works.
I also want to say that every scene, Motell played a completely different guitar vibe, and it was,
Oh, wow.
I don't know if you remember that, but you were playing just something totally different each time, and it goes on for a long time because I wanted to advance it and have it playing underneath. So you'd be playing for like 2 minutes, and then I'd go, okay, let's start the scene. But some great stuff. for the making of video.
I was like, what song is that?
I don't know.
Larry, you've made so many movies in Woodstock and upstate New York. Is it true they're going to name a town after you?
No. I prefer to lay low.
How do you like working in the upstate New York and the resources they have up there?
It's fantastic, and I mean, of course, I brought my crew up. There is my DP, Colin Botzi. I stole him from Jack 2. Colin shot Foxhole. But, you know, so we do bring people up, but it's very film friendly, and I also approached this one. I found all the locations from places I've been visiting for 20 years up there. So there was a nice feeling of working within a community, and that's what I wanted to do with this movie, is sort of just integrated. And we would tiptoe around. I said, I'll be at the lumberyard from 2 to 4, and if you know you keep business going. So it was a specific approach. It has to do with budget, but I don't like always talking about budget. It has to do with an approach that was trying to be sort of integrated, and so it was just an attitude towards how to make this movie feel lived in, and so that was the approach. But make no mistake, I still love shooting in New York. That's a whole other thing. I mean, everything is a little uptight now, and they'll always blame COVID or some other thing, but it's just everyone's on to us now because, and even upstate, it's like, you know, they used to make independent movies. Now they always talk about Netflix is here, and ooh. Well, we still make little films up there too. So that's that's part of the vibe. Is like, can we remind people that this can be a community thing? You know, support the arts. We're going to come by. You know, I used to buy plants from you. Can I come and work in your greenhouse? As opposed to, because once Netflix comes, then everybody's expecting to get onto the teat. I don't have a teat for that.
I love your Marvel-style Easter egg at the end.
Yeah.
So, yeah, could you talk about where Frankenstein's going to meet the Wolfman?
Well, it is sort of an inside joke, because, I mean, if you just happen to come to IFC to see an indie film, you're like, why is everybody gasping at this image? But that's the Frankenstein monster from my previous movie. So it's quite obvious, at least it's, where it leads, we'll see, but it is the idea of those two, because let's face it, what happened at the Universal monster movies is they realized they were running out of great directors and great stories, so they just started putting all the monsters in the same movie to the point of absurdity. And then it turned into Abbott Costello meets Frankenstein, and then the whole thing ended. So, my next picture's a
How about
comedy.
some questions from the audience?